Imagine a friend suddenly looks at you across the table and says, "Wow, you did an absolutely incredible job on that project today." Don't think about what you are supposed to say in polite society. Just genuinely notice your immediate gut reaction to that scenario. Did your brain instantly scramble to find a socially acceptable way to downplay your own achievement? Did you immediately reply with something nervous like, "Oh, it wasn't just me. The rest of the team did most of the heavy lifting." Or, "I actually completely messed up that one presentation slide, but thank you anyway." Why does a simple, completely positive statement about your own capability or appearance feel so deeply, physically uncomfortable? Why do you immediately feel the overwhelming urge to deny it, deflect it, or explain it away when someone simply tries to tell you that you are doing well? You might try to tell yourself that you are just trying to be humble and polite. But if you are being completely honest with yourself, you aren't just being humble, you are actively rejecting a reality where you are worthy of being recognized and celebrated. Think about how incredibly strange the human mind is when it comes to holding on to information. Why is it that you can remember a random, casually cruel comment someone made about your outfit 5 years ago, effortlessly recalling the exact tone of their voice and the room you were standing in? Yet when someone hands you a genuine, heartfelt compliment right now, in this very moment, your brain completely deletes it from your memory within 3 seconds flat. Why do you treat criticism as an absolute, undeniable fact of life, but treat praise like a highly suspicious package that needs to be thoroughly inspected for hidden motives? This isn't just a quirky, relatable personality trait that you should joke about. It is actually a profound and deeply ingrained psychological defense mechanism. There are 3 distinct layers to why you subconsciously refuse to let good things land in your mind, and we need to unpack them. The first layer is the simplest, but perhaps the most disorienting to experience. The compliment someone gives you simply does not match the image you currently have of yourself in your own head. Psychologists refer to this specific phenomenon as cognitive dissonance, which is basically a clinical way of saying your brain absolutely hates it when external information contradicts your internal beliefs. If you have spent the last few months, or even the last few years, quietly telling yourself that you are falling behind in life, that you are not quite smart enough, or that you are just barely keeping everything together, when someone suddenly steps into your reality and tells you that you are brilliant, or beautiful, or incredibly competent, it creates a massive mental clash. Your brain literally does not know where to file that positive information, because there is no existing internal folder labeled, "I am actually doing great right now." So instead of taking the time to rewrite your entire self-image on the spot, which takes a massive amount of emotional and mental energy, your brain takes the easy way out. It immediately rejects the compliment to restore order. It whispers to you, "They are just saying that to be nice," or "They don't really know the real me, because if they actually knew how much of a mess I am, they would never say that." You convince yourself that the person giving the compliment is either lying, pitying you, or just completely oblivious to your very obvious flaws. You actively protect your familiar negative self-image because, even though it hurts to think poorly of yourself, it is predictable, known, and therefore feels safe. But that is really only the surface level of the problem, and we need to go deeper. The second layer dives into how modern women, in particular, are conditioned to navigate the world and their own success. You are secretly terrified that if you actually accept a compliment, if you simply say thank you and actually believe it, you will instantly cross an invisible line into becoming arrogant. From a very young age, society quietly but persistently teaches us that a good woman is a modest woman, one who makes herself small and never takes up too much energetic space. We are taught to shrink our accomplishments, to minimize our own brilliance, and to constantly attribute our hard-earned success to luck, good timing, or the generous help of others. If you openly acknowledge your own talent or beauty, you are suddenly at risk of being labeled as conceited, full of yourself, or deeply unlikable by your peers. So you have developed this incredibly elaborate dance of deflection to protect your social standing and ensure absolutely no one thinks you are getting too confident. When someone says you look beautiful today, you immediately point out a flaw, hyper-focusing on the dark circles under your eyes, or mentioning that your dress was bought on clearance. You willingly offer up a piece of your own deeply held insecurity as a sacrifice, just to prove to the other person that you are still grounded and aren't getting a big head. You are constantly, exhaustingly negotiating your own worth in real time, trying to find that impossible middle ground where you are good enough to be valued, but not so confident that you intimidate the people around you. But I want you to stop and think about how utterly exhausting it is to constantly guard against your own greatness just to make other people feel slightly more comfortable in your presence. And then we finally reach the third and most deeply rooted layer of this entirely self-sabotaging behavior. This goes far beyond just trying to be polite or socially acceptable. It is fundamentally about how you learn to define your own basic worth very early in your life. For so many of us, love, affection, and positive recognition were never freely given just for the simple act of existing. They were treated as highly conditional currencies that had to be strictly earned through extreme effort, perfect grades, flawless behavior, or constant, unending usefulness to others. You learned a very dangerous lesson, that you are only valuable when you are producing something, fixing a problem, or sacrificing your own personal needs for someone else's comfort. Therefore, a compliment that is freely given, with absolutely no strings attached and no immense, agonizing struggle preceding it, feels fundamentally unsafe to your nervous system. It feels like an elaborate trick. If someone praises you just for being who you are, your anxiety actually spikes, because you feel like you haven't properly paid for that praise yet with your blood, sweat, and tears. You instinctively think, wait, I didn't suffer nearly enough to deserve this compliment, so it must not be real. Or worse, they are going to expect something huge from me in return very soon. You have unfortunately hardwired your brain to believe that you are only truly worthy of love and validation when you are actively performing for it. When you deflect a compliment, you are subconsciously signaling to the universe, please don't value me quite yet. I haven't finished proving that I actually deserve to be here. But you need to understand that this constant, habitual rejection of praise isn't just a harmless conversational tick. It is actively damaging your relationship with yourself. When you constantly dismiss the genuinely nice things people say to you, you are essentially telling them that their judgment is totally flawed and their kindness is fundamentally unwanted. You accidentally shut down beautiful, rare moments of genuine human connection. Even worse, you reinforce the incredibly toxic belief inside your own mind that you are inherently unworthy of ever being seen in a bright, positive light. So how do you actually break this vicious cycle without feeling like a complete fraud or worrying that you are suddenly turning into a raging narcissist? You don't need to completely overhaul your entire personality by tomorrow morning, but you do need to consciously practice a simple, three-step system to retrain how your brain processes positive feedback. Step 1 is the hardest. You absolutely have to stop the automatic, knee-jerk reaction of rejection. The very next time someone compliments you, your mouth is going to desperately want to instantly form the words, "no, but," or "it was honestly nothing special." You need to catch that defensive impulse right in the back of your throat and force yourself to pause in complete silence for just 2 full seconds. Step 2. You simply and quietly receive it, treating the compliment as if they are handing you a physical, fragile gift that you are not allowed to return to the store. You do not have to perfectly agree with what they are saying in that exact moment, but you must physically and mentally accept that they are giving it to you. Step 3. You intentionally choose a mature, grounded response that allows the positive energy of their words to actually land in your body. Instead of frantically scrambling for an excuse or a flaw to point out, you look them directly in the eye and try saying, "Thank you. I am really glad to hear that." That is literally it. You can say, "Thank you. I am really glad you noticed that." Or you can say, "Thank you. I actually worked really hard on this, and your words mean a lot to me today." There should be absolutely no long-winded explanations, no self-deprecating jokes to break the tension, and no immediate rushing to compliment them back just to artificially balance the social scales. Just allow the silence to gently sit there for a brief moment after you say thank you, and let your nervous system actually feel what it is like to be genuinely appreciated. In the next 7 days, I want to issue you a very specific, slightly uncomfortable challenge. Treat every single compliment you receive like an absolute, indisputable scientific fact. When someone says something nice about your work, your outfit, or your personality, do not fight them on it under any circumstances. Just quietly observe how desperately your brain wants to reject the positivity and gently guide yourself back to simply saying those 2 words, "Thank you." Because the absolute truth of the matter is, the next time a compliment makes your skin crawl and your stomach drop, you need to remember something incredibly important. That deep, unsettling discomfort you are feeling isn't happening because the compliment they gave you is a total lie. It isn't happening because people are secretly mocking you behind your back or trying to set you up for a massive, embarrassing failure. That discomfort is happening because they are holding up a clear mirror that reflects a genuinely beautiful, highly capable, and deeply worthy version of yourself. And it just feels wildly uncomfortable, because that is a beautiful truth you simply aren't used to believing about yourself yet.